Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, and we are now just under 2 days away from the full launch of Black Ops Cold War, otherwise known as Season 1, and today I wanted to sit down and discuss a pretty hot-button issue within the community right now. As somebody who frequently speaks out against Activision, skill-based matchmaking, and the overall terrible business practices that have become commonplace within the gaming industry, lots of people have been tweeting me about this, and I've seen it brought up in a number of other people's videos. The idea, or the movement rather, is address skill-based matchmaking, as well as boycott the Battle Pass, both of which are working towards the same goal. The idea, according to the players and the content creators that are backing this movement, is if enough of us do not buy the Season 1 Battle Pass when it goes live on December 16th, and if we use the hashtags enough on social media, then we're going to be putting our money where our mouth is and forcing Activision's hand to finally address skill-based matchmaking within Black Ops Cold War, or at the very least acknowledge it, because right now it's pretty much radio silence from anybody at Treyarch, Infinity Ward, or Activision themselves. It's obviously no secret that skill-based matchmaking is as wild as it has ever been with Black Ops Cold War. Recently, Exclusive Ace did put out a video where he had help from Drifter as well as Sour, where they tested skill-based matchmaking, and it looks like it's pretty much the same here in Black Ops Cold War as it was during Modern Warfare 2019, but here in Black Ops Cold War, the higher skill you are, the worse your connection is going to be, which is insane. And recently I did a video discussing this, and I showed my stats via COD Tracker, and on COD Tracker, I have a 1.46 KD within Black Ops Cold War, right? Now, 1.46 is not horrible, but it's completely mediocre in every way in any other Call of Duty title, but here in Black Ops Cold War, that placed me in the top 9% of players in the world, which is mind-blowing. That really just goes to show just how sweaty Cold War is as compared to previous Call of Duty titles. And recently, Blame Truth, who's a buddy of mine and an awesome content creator, he discussed the boycott in his video, as well as he showed off his stats, and he has a 1.7 KD. Right, a 1.70 KD, and that places him in the top 21,000 players in the entire world for Black Ops Cold War. That is insane. It's not for nothing, but still, like a 1.7 KD was simply above average in virtually any other Call of Duty game, but here in the skill-based matchmaking sweat fields of Black Ops Cold War, a 1.7 KD places him in the prestigious top 5% of players on planet Earth. There are less than 22,000 people on planet Earth that have a 1.7 or higher KD here in Black Ops Cold War, and that is absolutely insane. And also, pardon the French, that's also fucking stupid, because in any other COD title, a 1.7 KD was simply above average. It wasn't amazing, it was good, it was above average, but it was not amazing. But in Black Ops Cold War, you're basically optic scump if you have 1.7 KD or higher, and that really goes to show just how crazy the skill-based matchmaking is so far here within Black Ops Cold War, and Activision refuses to acknowledge it, Treyarch refuses to acknowledge it, and going back to Modern Warfare 2019, they also refuse to acknowledge it, even though skill-based matchmaking was just about as crazy in that game as it was in this year's game. Now, I'm just going to come out and say it right now, and I don't want to be that guy, but I don't think this boycott is going to work in the same way that people are hoping it's going to work. And I'm not saying that just to be contrarian. I'm not saying that just to have a hot take. I'm saying this because we've seen something like this happen in the Call of Duty franchise before, and it failed miserably. That's not to say it won't work this time around, but history says it's not going to work. And I also think people are going to be throwing the baby out with the bathwater by correlating skill-based matchmaking with the Battle Pass, because I feel as though people forget just how good the Battle Pass is for the Call of Duty franchise. So let's go ahead and take a trip back to 2015, which coincidentally enough was another Treyarch game. Black Ops 3 released and actually had a decent amount of content at launch, at least compared to today. It had 12 original maps at launch, 13 if you count Nuketown, and it also had 31 weapons and 18 score streaks. These numbers are all higher than what we saw with Black Ops Cold War, and best of all, it was announced very early on when they introduced the black market in the Black Ops 3 that the black market would be cosmetic only. Now, unfortunately, I'm going to have to pause things for a second right there. Everybody remembers hearing that, right? They remember hearing that the black market was going to be cosmetic only. Everybody heard about it. Everybody was talking about it. It was all over YouTube and social media. But unfortunately, it appears that Activision took down that initial blog post where they introduced the black market into Black Ops 3, because I spent an hour today trying to find that exact blog post, but I couldn't. right? It was discussed in countless videos, as well as Reddit posts and in Twitter posts. I could find all those things, but I couldn't find the source whatsoever. But essentially what the blog post said was the black market was going to be the place to go in Black Ops 3 to get cosmetic items to show off in-game. And when that was put out, fans saw that, they read it, they heard about it in videos, and they were excited because they just spent the past year with Advanced Warfare's supply drop system, which was horrible, right? Supply drops were new to the Call of Duty franchise, so they weren't as taboo back then as they are now. But even back then, we were really annoyed because in Advanced Warfare, the supply drops were full of weapon variants that fundamentally changed each weapon's stats, thus creating a pay-to-win system. And really good weapons like the Ball 27 Obsidian Steed or the ASM-1 Speakeasy had a notoriously low drop rate, and that was frustrating, right? So when Black Ops 3 came out and they announced that the black market and their supply drops were going to be cosmetic only, fans were happy. More or less. Again, supply drops weren't as taboo back then as they are now, but still, fans were relatively happy. Well, that all changed on February 2nd of 2016. That was just a few months after Black Ops 3 came out, and they released a new DLC. And as part of that DLC, they added the MX Grand Rifle, the Marshall 16 pistol, and the NX Shadow Claw into the supply drop loot pool. This is what would eventually lead to the floodgates opening for DLC for Black Ops 3, and very early on, the community, as they always do, resisted, right? We resisted that, and we started up the black market blackout. I don't know exactly who started it, but basically lots of people were on board with the idea of the black market blackout. The idea was for everybody to not purchase COD points or supply drops until Activision and Treyarch addressed the horrible drop rates in supply drops or revamped the entire system altogether. Right? It was a very simple concept. Lots of people were behind it. Again, it was all over YouTube, Twitter, as well as Reddit. But unfortunately, it did not end up doing anything, right? Despite gaining a ton of attention from a number of larger YouTube channels, as well as being a frequent topic of discussion on Reddit and Twitter, it didn't sway Activision whatsoever. The black market blackout essentially did nothing. If anything, I think it might have actually hurt us because it seemed like Activision wanted to put even more stuff into the black market just to prove a point. Because if you guys don't know this, Black Ops 3, despite starting off pretty good with a good amount of content at launch and cosmetic-only supply drops and everything, Black Ops 3 ended up, at the end of the day, being more DLC than game. Right? It was literally more DLC than game, and I use the word literally in the purest sense of the word. When it was all said and done, Black Ops 3 had 13 maps at launch, but it had 20 DLC maps. It launched with 30 regular weapons and 1 melee weapon, but locked away within the supply drop slot machines were 31 DLC weapons. There were more guns, maps, melee weapons, camos, calling cards, and emblems locked away within supply drops and on the season pass than there was content in the base game, despite the black market blackout movement. Now, you would think that even though the black market blackout movement didn't save Black Ops 3, that all the controversy that was kicked up on YouTube and Twitter and Reddit surrounding the supply drop system in Black Ops 3 would have actually helped out future Call of Duty games, but that didn't really seem to be the case, because it's important to remember that the overwhelming majority of the Call of Duty community aren't on those places. They're not on YouTube or Twitter or Reddit, right? They're just playing the game after work. They're putting like 2 or 3 days of playtime into the game over the course of an entire year and buying the anime bundles whenever they come out, right? That's the average Call of Duty fan. We here on YouTube, Twitter, Reddit, social media, so on and so forth, we are the vocal minority. We are the most hardcore players. We are the players that actually care most about the game and typically the ones that spend the most money on the game, but still, we're the vocal minority, and it's very clear with what we saw with Modern Warfare 2019 that Activision is not really catering the game to players like us anymore. They are catering the game towards, for lack of a better phrase, to the Fortnite kids, right? They're trying to get this new generation of gamers into the Call of Duty franchise. That's why skill-based matchmaking exists, because they want those people to try the franchise out for the first time, feel like they're better than they actually are, therefore get invested, have fun, and end up spending money on things like the Battle Pass and things like the anime bundles in the in-game shop, right? That's the overall business model for Call of Duty, at least so far based on what we've seen over the course of the past couple of years. Now, going back to Black Ops 3 here for a second, we did have that black market blackout, and there was a bunch of controversy kicked up surrounding that, but unfortunately, even with Black Ops 3's horrible supply drop system and season pass system, we then had Infinite Warfare, we had Modern Warfare Remastered, we had Call of Duty World War II, and we had Black Ops 4, all of which featured supply drops. Right? Now, obviously, the egregiousness of these supply drops varied from game to game, but the fact remains the same. Game-changing weapons were locked away behind slot machines, and multiplayer maps were locked away behind the Season Pass in 4 straight years, 5 total games, following the Black Market blackout. And also keep in mind here, guys, they were basically setting new records year after year for microtransaction sales, despite supply drops being incredibly invasive and annoying to even the casual player, whether or not those casual players realized it or not. That was all up until Modern Warfare 2019. Last year, Activision attempted to save face by saying that they don't want to be looked at as the bad guys anymore. That's an actual quote, by the way. They don't want to be looked at as like the bad publisher anymore. And with Modern Warfare 2019, they did actually make some great innovations. Despite skill-based matchmaking and the multiplayer maps being designed for Yogi Bear, the best part, hands down, about Modern Warfare 2019 was the monetization system. The idea was simple enough. You remove virtually all PlayStation exclusivity outside of a couple of things. You then release all DLC maps for free for all platforms at the same time. You then remove supply drops from the franchise, despite them existing within the Modern Warfare game files. I've discussed that before, but supply drops were going to be coming to Modern Warfare 2019. We have images of them in the game files, but those were removed as well. And finally, they added a battle pass to the game that is $10 per season, and regardless of whether or not you buy that battle pass, all DLC weapons are free and can be earned by playing or completing challenges. It was that simple, and overnight, virtually all the monetization issues that we had in the Call of Duty franchise were gone. There was no more spending $15 a piece for 4 map packs just to get 12 post-launch maps. The Season Pass was always between $50 and $60 a year, and all it would give us is new maps. It wouldn't even take into account all the supply drop weapons that would come out year after year after year. With the new Battle Pass system, regardless of whether or not you decide to purchase it, you would get all post-launch maps and all post-launch weapons for free, no strings attached. It's basically the system that we've always wanted. When it comes to the Battle Pass itself, yes, it is $10, and yes, there will be 6 of them, 1 for each season, but with your $10, all you're actually buying is the ability to progress through that Battle Pass and unlock the cosmetic items that are available, like operator skins, watches, weapon blueprints, calling cards, emblems, and stuff like that. That may not sound like a whole lot for $10, but that $10 Battle Pass full of skins and calling cards is literally what saved the Call of Duty franchise for a lot of people. Post-launch maps are finally free, post-launch weapons are finally free, and it's all because Activision finally adopted the Battle Pass model. Granted, it took them 5 years longer than it should have for them to adopt it, but eventually they adopted it, and it really helped out the Call of Duty franchise. Modern Warfare 2019 went on to be the most successful Call of Duty game in terms of sales, and the most successful ever in terms of microtransaction sales, despite having the most fair business model that we have ever seen. Now keep in mind, they were literally peddling map packs and season passes all the way back in Call of Duty 4, and they finally did away with that in Modern Warfare 2019, and they're keeping that same business model so far here within Black Ops Cold War. Now that's why I think the aspect of this movement where we boycott the Battle Pass is not necessarily a great idea, and it's also why I don't believe the boycott is going to work. It didn't work in Black Ops 3, and the Battle Pass itself is what finally got supply drops and season passes out of the Call of Duty franchise. Now, to be fair, I don't think Activision would be able to save any face if they were to revert back to supply drops. I don't think they could actually ever do that again, but the fact still remains. The true problem here is not the Battle Pass, it's skill-based matchmaking, and the reason why it's a problem is because, like I said earlier, Activision is pointing the franchise to an entirely new target audience. It started with Modern Warfare 2019, where they literally designed skill-based matchmaking to protect new players. The maps themselves, who remembers the maps from Modern Warfare 2019? They were campy as hell and had so many crazy sightlines. Well, that was also there to help new players. Dead Silence was removed as a perk to help new players. The time to kill was insanely fast, once again, to help new players. These aren't just my assumptions, by the way. These were all literally confirmed by Infinity Ward's multiplayer design director, Joe Seacott.
Is balanced matchmaking a priority for Modern Warfare?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one of the things we really want to do with this game is we want to get new players in the game, and we want them to kind of like, we don't want them to just get punched in the mouth over and over again until they leave. We want a healthy ecosystem. We want a lot of players in and having fun, and that's a big focus for us. It's a big focus for us in weapon design. It's a big focus for us in level design. Our weapons are a bit more lethal than they were in the Black Ops, the recent more Black Ops, and that helps a lower skilled player get a kill when they otherwise wouldn't, have some success, and then feel like now there's a desire to get better and to get another kill. Our maps are a little bit more porous, and we want those players to have a safe place to take their time, to learn how to turn and move and then shoot, put those pieces together, and then they see someone and be like, oh, okay, now I can do this. So yeah, it's a big focus for us.
But that approach that you're describing there isn't going to come at the expense of the hardcore players, right?
This is why skill-based matchmaking exists. Again, I know I used it earlier, but for lack of a better comparison, Activision looks to be catering their new games to the Fortnite kids, right? Which is to say the next generation of gamer that was raised in a world full of microtransactions and thus are willing to spend more money on them. If a player is just now entering the Call of Duty franchise and they are horrible, but they don't know it, and they're having fun, then they're more likely to get invested in the Call of Duty franchise and start buying the game year after year and spending money on microtransactions, right? That's basically the business model behind skill-based matchmaking. It's designed to appease those new players and those bad players, but at the same time, it's also designed to really annoy the hardcore fans, right? The hardcore fans who have been supporting the franchise for over a decade. It hurts to say that, but that's honestly true. It's there to help out the new players and the bad players and also really annoy the hardcore players who, again, have been supporting the franchise year after year after year, and honestly, it feels like a slap in the face. And what's worse is they're not transparent. That's the whole point of the movement of address skill-based matchmaking is, at the very least, we just want transparency. Talk about skill-based matchmaking, bring it up, do an official blog post, do something, acknowledge skill-based matchmaking, because it's there, everybody knows it's there, everyone's been talking about it, yet they're ignoring it. It's been radio silence from everybody, from Activision to Treyarch to Infinity Ward to Raven to Sledgehammer to all across the board, right? It's radio silence. It's like they have an NDA about skill-based matchmaking within the Call of Duty franchise, and we're sick of it, right? Just address skill-based matchmaking. Now, going back to the Battle Pass here for a second, I think part of the reason why the Battle Pass was eventually implemented was because of the hardcore player base. I think it's because the hardcore player base, year after year after year, was speaking out against supply drops and season passes, and we do know for a fact that people at Activision, Treyarch, Infinity Ward, so on and so forth, they do pay very close attention to places like Reddit, Twitter, and YouTube, and they are aware of how the Call of Duty player base feels, right? The hardcore fans, they're very in tune with what they feel, but a lot of the time they don't really seem to care, or at least that's the way it appears. Again, they're not transparent whatsoever, and that's why the topic of skill-based matchmaking always needs to be brought up. It needs to constantly be discussed. It always needs to be put into the spotlight, because eventually change can happen. I don't think that change is going to happen, however, by having a repeat of the black market blackout. If anything, people choosing to spend $10 on a cosmetic-only battle pass so that they and the rest of the community don't have to rely on supply drop luck to unlock new weapons or purchase a season pass to play new maps is a good thing, right? Going full circle here, I think that boycotting the Battle Pass may be a situation of throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Now, sure, in a perfect world, Call of Duty launches every single year for $60, and it's actually complete at launch, and it has 40 weapons and 16 maps and no skill-based matchmaking and a full year of free updates, weapons, and maps, all for that initial $60 price tag. But let's get real here, guys. Let's get real here. While gaming at its core is just that, it's gaming, it's a pastime, it's creating virtual experiences, and it's a vessel for fun that we've all been using likely since we were kids, it's still a business, however, right? Gaming is still a business. At the end of the day, Activision is a business and Call of Duty is a business, and they are in the business of making money, which is why skill-based matchmaking exists in the first place. It's why skill-based matchmaking exists in its current state. And while, yes, I do want skill-based matchmaking removed from the franchise entirely, and I've made several dozen videos discussing just that, even a couple this past week, I don't think boycotting the Battle Pass is necessarily going to do anything. If anything, I feel like people focusing in on the Battle Pass is going to take away from the actual problem, which is skill-based matchmaking. The Battle Pass, honestly, in my own, I'm always real with you guys, I think the Battle Pass is one of the better things that's ever happened to the Call of Duty franchise, and now people are focusing in on that as compared to focusing in on the actual issue, which is skill-based matchmaking. I get that the boycott for the Battle Pass is just so they actually acknowledge skill-based matchmaking, but I think we can do that in better ways that don't hurt the Call of Duty franchise, because the Battle Pass does a lot of good for the Call of Duty franchise. If you want to boycott the Battle Pass, then go for it, right? To each their own. I just want to see the actual issue at hand get resolved here. And I think the best way to go about that is just to keep doing what we're doing here. Keep making those tweets, keep making those Reddit threads. Whenever an official Call of Duty live stream is up on YouTube or Twitch, spam it with address skill-based matchmaking, right? If you're a content creator, keep posting those videos and keep the topic of skill-based matchmaking relevant. If you're one of those select content creators or pro players that have special access to the inside of the Call of Duty world, then use your early access to map packs and new updates and your inside sources and Activision and Treyarch and so on to bring up the topic of skill-based matchmaking to the developers directly. Right? And I will say so far, I'm actually damn proud of all the Call of Duty pros that are speaking out against skill-based matchmaking, even with it potentially violating their Call of Duty League contracts, because that's a lot of money they're missing out on. These guys are literally getting fined for speaking out against Call of Duty's business practices right now, and good on those guys. Keep fighting the good fight and support the actual movement of address skill-based matchmaking any way you can. I could keep talking about this, but I think I'm going to wrap the video up there. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have for you guys here today. Apologies for all the Nuketown gameplay lately. Until Season 1 comes out, this is pretty much all I've been doing in Cold War is leveling my weapons up, and Nuketown's pretty much the best place to do that. But once Season 1 drops, there should be a lot more variety in gameplay here on the channel and a lot more things to actually do. But until then, I hope you guys all enjoyed today's video. I know it's a bit of a controversial opinion, but I feel as though the Call of Duty community at times has somewhat of a short memory. Just 2 years ago, we were reliant on supply drops and slot machines to get weapons, and we're paying $50 for a season pass if we want to have more than 9 maps to play in the game. The Battle Pass basically fixed all that. And I get that they could release everything for free, but again, Call of Duty's a business. Gaming is a business, and they're not going to release all that post-launch stuff for free. So the better alternative is a $10 Battle Pass that you don't even need to buy, and that $10 Battle Pass is what makes it so exclusivity is not necessarily that big of a thing in Call of Duty anymore. It's what makes it so all the maps come out for free at the same time on all platforms, and it's also what makes all post-launch weapons come out for free at the same time on all platforms, all for just a $10 Battle Pass that you don't even have to buy, right? If enough people buy them, then it works. If enough people don't buy them, then maybe they go back to supply drops, maybe they go back to season passes, and I don't think anybody wants that. So that's what I wanted to discuss here today. I hope you guys all enjoyed the video. If you did, consider leaving a like. Just to be clear, I will be fully supporting the address skill-based matchmaking movement going forward, and I'll be discussing it in several other videos going forward as well. But for right now, once again, I'm going to be wrapping up the video. Hope you guys all enjoyed, and I hope you guys all have a wonderful day.